Take her. You're the caring one, right? Prove it. Yeah, loser. Since you're so good at playing nurse, enjoy the diaper duty. And don't call us. We've got lives. Their laughter was the kind that sticks to your skin. Cheap, loud, and mean. The front door slammed hard enough to rattle the picture frames. A gust of winter air followed, smelling like wet iron and car exhaust. On my porch, my grandmother, Nana, stood shaking inside an oversized coat that wasn't hers, a paper wristband from the ear still biting her skin. A black trash bag of clothes slumped at her feet like a second, sad person. I didn't say anything. I just let the anger move through me like frost under a closed window. My throat tightened. My palms opened. My voice, when it came, was steady. Hi everyone, my name is Ren. I'm 26. I bake bread on Sundays, keep spare blankets folded near the couch, and I never expected to be the last soft place in a family that's all corners and knives. Nana blinked at me, eyes glassy and lost as marbles in a dark jar. Do you know me? She whispered, the words wobbling then slipping. She searched my face with a child's uncertainty. Behind her, the taillights of my father's truck smeared red through the rain, then disappeared. I guided her inside. The hallway light flickered. The radiator hissed awake like an animal. Shoes off. Wet coat on the hook. I tucked Nana into the living room under my thick gray throw, the one with the frayed tassels. She stared at the lamp, voice airy. Pretty, she said as if the word were a leaf. ALZHEIMER'S steals in small bites. It nibbles first at names, then at rooms, then at seasons. One day you wake to find the whole house of a life eaten to lath. I'd learned that from pamphlets, from forums, from late-night searches when the only company is the glow of your phone and your heartbeat reminding you you're still here. I made tea. I wrote her name on a sticky note and pressed it to the mug. Nana. Mine said Ren. We sat with the steam threading upward like prayers. Hungry? I asked. Your mother knows the good recipes, she said, and the sentence broke open something old in me. My mother. Gone with the gentleness nobody offered after. The men in my family had always preferred volume over tenderness. They measured love in decibels and dollars and somehow offered neither. I set out soft toast with honey. Nana tasted it, smiled small, and then her eyes drifted. For hours I kept time by her breath, the radiator's rhythm, the rain ticking at the window. I texted my father, she's safe. I've got her. The message showed red. No reply. Near midnight she stirred. Her gaze clicked just for a second like a camera finding focus. Ren Bird, she said, the nickname only she ever used. I forgot something important. Her hand trembled as she pointed, not at me, not at the door they'd slammed, but toward the dim hallway, toward the attic hatch where the paint never quite matched. It's waiting, she breathed, the words landing in the room like a dropped key. Then her eyes fogged over again and the radiator kept hissing and the rain didn't stop. The attic hatch creaked like a throat clearing secrets. But I didn't climb. Not yet. That night I stayed curled in the armchair, watching Nana's chest rise and fall beneath the throw. Every once in a while her lips moved, soundless, as if reciting prayers in a language half erased by time. By morning the text from my father still hadn't been answered. My uncles? Silence too. Their absence pressed heavier than their insults. They wanted me to crack. They wanted me buried under the weight of their neglect. But the thing is, I'd been underestimated my whole life. Nana woke to the smell of coffee. Her eyes flickered with recognition then dulled. She pointed weakly at the ceiling again. Something locked away, she murmured. Her fingers drew shapes in the air like invisible keys. I smiled faintly, pretending calm. Later, Nana. First, breakfast. The day was a blur of care. Pills sorted by color. Toast cut in triangles. Warm baths with lavender soap that filled the house with a gentleness my childhood never knew. I moved around her like a shadow, doing what those men refused to. Every act of care felt like stitching up the holes they'd left in me. Late afternoon, the doorbell rang sharp. My stomach knotted. When I opened the door, my Uncle Grant leaned on the frame, smirking. How's our patient? His eyes slid past me into the living room like he owned it. She's fine, I said firm. He chuckled. Good. Don't get too comfortable. Families share responsibilities. His hand landed on my shoulder, heavy, condescending. Remember that. I shut the door on him. The echo of the latch was louder than his words. That night while Nana dozed, I finally pulled down the attic ladder. Dust fell like gray snow. My flashlight beam cut through webs, landing on boxes stamped with years in my mother's handwriting. Old quilts, jars of buttons, a trunk with brass corners tarnished to green. As I traced the latch of that trunk, my heart beat louder than the radiator ever could. Nana's voice floated up from below, dreamlike, fragile yet piercing. "Renbird, don't let them take it this time." The attic air thickened, carrying weight far heavier than dust. The trunk resisted me at first, its lock rusted with years of disuse. My fingers shook as I tugged, flashlight balanced between my knees. With a final groan of metal, it gave way. The lid creaked open and the smell of cedar and mothballs spilled into the cold attic air. Inside were envelopes, dozens of them, bound with brittle twine. Some were stamped with banks I didn't recognize, others with my mother's neat cursive, "For later." For Ren. Beneath them lay a stack of ledgers, yellowed at the edges, and one velvet pouch heavy with something solid inside. My pulse drummed. I untied the pouch. Gold coins slid into my palm, catching the weak flashlight like tiny suns. My breath caught. Nana's words rang in my ears. "It's waiting." I shoved everything back, heart hammering. This wasn't just keepsakes. This was wealth. Hidden. Protected. And now found. I pulled the attic door shut behind me, dust still clinging to my clothes, and descended into the dim living room. Nana sat upright on the couch, more lucid than I'd seen her. Her eyes were sharp, wet with memory. "Did you see it?" she asked. I knelt beside her. "Yes, Nana. I saw." Her hand clutched mine with surprising strength. "Don't trust them. Not your father. Not his brothers. They'll smell it like wolves." Before I could answer, headlights swept across the curtains. A car door slammed. Then voices. My father's, clipped and impatient. The knock was hard enough to rattle the hinges. I froze. Nana's grip tightened. "Remember," she whispered. When I opened the door, my father stood there with both uncles at his side, their faces tight with a practiced concern. "We were worried," my dad said, his tone oily. "Thought we'd check in." His gaze slid past me, searching. "How's Mom doing?" "She's fine," I said, blocking the doorway. Grant smirked again. "Mind if we come in?" "No," my voice surprised even me, steady, firm, final. For a moment, silence crackled between us. Then Dad's smile cracked just enough to show his teeth. "We'll talk soon, Ren. Don't forget, you can't handle this alone." I shut the door, my pulse wild. Behind me, Nana whispered like prophecy. "They know." Sleep abandoned me that night. I sat in the dark, watching the glow of street lamps bleed through thin curtains, every creak of the house amplified. Down the hall, Nana murmured in her sleep, words tangled between past and present. I couldn't stop hearing my father's voice at the door. "You can't handle this alone." By dawn, the air smelled like damp wood. I brewed coffee strong enough to steady my hands. As I set Nana's pill organizer on the table, I found her already awake, staring at me with startling clarity. "They'll take everything," she said. Her voice wasn't fogged, it was steel. I knelt beside her. "Then tell me what to do." She pointed toward the attic. "The papers. The bank names. I saved for years while they wasted. Houses, land, gold. They think I forgot. But I remember." Her eyes sharpened, locking with mine. "It's yours if you're brave enough. But you'll need proof, before they smell the fortune." I felt my stomach flip. For once, her words weren't a riddle. They were a roadmap. That afternoon, I hauled the trunk down to the kitchen table. Nana sat wrapped in her blanket, nodding as I opened the ledgers. Page after page revealed deposits, property deeds, even stocks, her handwriting looping across the margins. It was all real. I barely had time to absorb it before the door rattled again. This time no knock, just pounding fists. "Ren, open up." My father's bark cut through the air. "We need to talk about Mom's care." Nana's hand squeezed mine. Her whisper was sharp as glass. "Hide it." I shoved the pouch of coins into the oven drawer, slid the ledgers under the couch cushions, and kicked the trunk lid shut just as the pounding grew louder. When I opened the door, my father and uncles shoved past me without waiting. They filled the living room with their cologne, their heavy boots, their false concern. Grant whistled low. Well. You've been busy, huh? His eyes roamed too carefully as if already sniffing for secrets. I stood tall, steadying my breath. Busy, I said, voice calm, keeping her safe. Something you never bothered to do. The room grew thick with their presence. Cheap aftershave, wet coats, heavy boots grinding dirt into my rug. Nana shrank into her blanket, eyes darting like a cornered bird. My father sat heavily in the armchair opposite her, elbows on his knees, staring as if she were a stranger. So, he said slowly, Mom's memories, improving. His tone was casual but his jaw ticked, the vein in his temple pulsing. Grant leaned against the wall, arms crossed. She told us things, he added. About money. Land. Accounts. Didn't she, Frank? The third brother, Frank, nodded once, his silence more menacing than words. I felt my chest tighten but I didn't flinch. She's resting. You should go. Dad's eyes snapped to mine, cold as stone. Don't play dumb. She's been talking, hasn't she? Behind me, Nana let out a trembling laugh, one that made the hair on my arms stand. Talking? Oh yes. But you never listened when it mattered. Their gazes shot to her. For a moment the fog in her eyes cleared completely. She sat straighter, her voice cutting sharp. I hid everything because of you, she said. You drink it, gamble it, waste it. I wanted it safe, for Ren. My breath caught. She had never spoken my name so deliberately, so firmly in front of them. Dad rose, face mottling red. Mom, don't start with your nonsense. Ren can't handle her own bills, let alone yours. I stepped between them, feeling heat rush up my spine. She's not nonsense. And I won't let you bully her again. Grant smirked, but there was tension in his shoulders. Careful, kid. You don't know what you're in over your head with. Frank finally spoke, voice gravel. The law decides who manages an old woman's money. Not her. Not you. The words landed like a threat. My mind spun. Court. Guardianship. They wanted control. I guided Nana toward her room, shielding her with my body. Her fingers clutched mine fiercely, whispering as if only I could hear. They'll try papers, judges, tricks. But the truth is written already. You just have to show them. The door clicked shut behind us, but the storm outside my room was only beginning. The next morning I called in sick to work. My hands shook as I spread Nana's papers across the kitchen table. Ledgers, property deeds, bank slips. The numbers were staggering. Years of sacrifice, hidden away like treasure no one ever believed she possessed. I photographed everything page by page, uploading to a secure drive. Evidence. Proof. My lifeline if they dragged me into court. The doorbell timed mid-morning. This time it wasn't my father. It was a woman in a charcoal suit, leather briefcase in hand. Miss Adler, she asked, eyes sharp. Yes, I said cautiously. I'm attorney Claire Harlow. Your grandmother retained me years ago. She instructed me to come if her health ever declined. My chest tightened. Nana shuffled into the kitchen, blanket trailing, eyes suddenly bright. Claire, she said softly as if greeting an old friend. The attorney smiled. Hello, Mrs. Adler. I've kept everything as you asked. The trust. The deeds. Your will. She opened the briefcase with a snap. Inside, neatly organized folders glowed like salvation. I nearly collapsed with relief. But before we could breathe, tires screeched outside. The slam of car doors. Raised voices. My father's roar. Ren. Open this damn door. Claire's eyes flicked to me steady. Do not let them in. Not yet. We sat in silence as the pounding shook the frame. Nana clutched my hand, her whisper fierce. The law protects us, if we protect the truth. Minutes stretched like hours. Finally the noise faded, engines revving away. I exhaled, trembling. Claire placed her hand on mine. They'll file for guardianship. Try to paint you as unfit. But with these records we can prove your grandmother's intentions. Anne, she paused, lowering her voice. She left control of her estate to you, not them. My father's threats echoed in my head. Court battles. Lies. Character assassinations. But now for the first time I wasn't defenseless. Nana's eyes glimmered, steady and knowing. They think I'm broken. But you'll show them I am not. You'll finish what I began. Her words weren't a request. They were a charge. A passing of the torch. And I knew I was ready to burn them with the truth. The courthouse smelled of old wood and polished stone, a place where truths and lies battled under fluorescent light. My father and uncles sat in a row across the aisle, dark suits straining against their shoulders, eyes gleaming with false righteousness. They looked like men about to collect a prize. I sat with Claire and Nana. Though frail, Nana insisted on being present. She wore her favorite brooch, a sapphire pinned to her cardigan, and her eyes burned with the clarity of someone who had waited years for this moment. The judge entered. Papers shuffled. My father's attorney rose first, spinning a tale of concern. These men only wished to ensure their mother's care. Unfortunately, their niece is inexperienced, unstable, and financially incapable. Their words sliced at me, but I held steady. Claire stood. Her voice was crisp as glass. Your Honor, we have documented proof that Mrs. Adler prepared her estate long before this decline. The will, trusts, and property deeds are here. She laid the folders gently before the bench. The judge leaned forward. My father's face paled as page after page was reviewed. Then Claire asked permission to call Nana. Whispers rippled through the room. Could she even testify? Nana rose slowly, her cane trembling in her hand. Claire guided her to the stand. Silence thickened. Then Nana's voice, fragile yet unwavering, filled the courtroom. My sons left me on a doorstep like garbage. Only Ren stayed. The money, the land, the gold. I hid it because I knew what greed does to men like them. It eats them hollow. I'm not confused today. I know exactly what I wrote. Everything is for Ren. The judge's gavel tapped once, silencing the echo of her words. My father leapt up, face red, shouting, "She doesn't know what she's saying. She's sick." But the judge's eyes were firm. Mrs. Adler appears competent. The documents corroborate her testimony. I glanced back at my father and uncles, their confidence cracking, shoulders stiffening as if the ground had shifted beneath them. Nana turned toward me, lips curling in a faint smile. Ren bird, the truth has wings. In that instant I felt the scales tip. Justice was no longer a dream. It was already landing. The gavel struck final, echoing like thunder in a hollow sky. The petition for guardianship is denied. Control of the Adler estate remains with Mrs. Adler, under the care of her chosen heir, Ren Adler. The words rang through the courtroom, clean and irrevocable. Across the aisle, my father slumped back, jaw clenched, face mottled with fury he could no longer disguise. Grant muttered a curse under his breath, while Frank stared blankly ahead as if the verdict had emptied him out. For the first time in my life, their power shrank before my eyes. Paper tigers exposed by truth. Claire squeezed my shoulder, grounding me. Nana's hand found mine, warm, fragile but steady. Her sapphire brooch glinted under the lights as if winking at me. Outside, the courthouse steps buzzed with murmurs. My father stormed past without a glance, shoulders hunched, the weight of defeat bending him. My uncles followed, smaller now, shadows of the men who once loomed so large. I held Nana close as the cold air swept around us. She whispered, voice thin but fierce, "They thought abandoning me made me weak. But love is stronger than greed. You proved that." Tears pricked my eyes, not of sadness but of release. For years I'd carried their cruelty like chains. Now those chains clattered to the ground. Back home I unlocked the trunk one last time, laying out the ledgers, the coins, the deeds. Not as secrets in hiding, but as proof of survival, of resilience, of legacy. Nana dozed in her chair, lips curved into the faintest smile. I looked around my small, battered house and knew it was no longer just mine. It was the foundation of something greater. The storm was over. The truth had wings.